Tonight on CFTK-TV News, International Overdose Awareness Week made its presence known in Terrace. We have an update on a couple making a big walk for children in ministry care, and a major development out of Ottawa might result in a premature federal election.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Baslett, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. International Overdose Awareness Day just set foot in Terrace this past weekend, which is always a heavy day for many. CFTK's Damian Smith has more on the event that took place at George Little Park.
This past Saturday, it was a powerful day at George Little Park in Terrace, and it saw many come for International Overdose Awareness Day. Perspectives were contentious, with eye-opening takes on how the day should be treated going forward since it was officially created in 2001, and how locally Terrace and British Columbia should handle drug treatment.
We owe it to each other to sit down and share our thoughts and our feelings with each other and try to come to a shared understanding of where we go together. Because if we're pulling in different directions, we're not going to do justice to those families that have lost their loved ones.
Our loved ones who are living on the streets in Terrace right now, they're not dying of overdose anymore because they're taking care of one another. They love one another enough to stand up for one another. What they're dying of is stigma. They're dying of infections. They're dying of preventable, communicable diseases that could be easily prevented by them feeling welcome to walk into our hospital, but they don't. I'm sorry. But that's just how I feel about today, is it's a Band-Aid solution, just like every other solution our governance has given us, our leadership has given us. Nothing but Band-Aids over bullet holes.
It's an emotional day for anyone, with many organizations and community members present, especially for Lana Green, who lost her son TJ 3 years ago. Lana is part of Moms Stop the Harm, which is a network for families related to substance harm or death. The organization has now created a network of over 2,500 families across Canada.
I thank God I found them because it helped me to understand what my son was going through and to be able to love him where he was at. And now after losing him, they also offer support groups. It's a network where we can stand together and keep learning and unlearning and advocate for those drug policy changes that will keep people alive.
With hundreds of overdose deaths in BC, including 192 this past July, Lana and many others believe there should be a more specific way to handle drug treatment.
When we're talking about detox and treatment and these things, that we need to be looking at an evidence-based, compassion approach, and the government needs to listen to families who are living this. There should be nothing about us without us. Peers, people with lived experience need to be in on those decision-making tables. I'm hopeful that Moms Stop the Harm, that we can build a chapter of us active advocates here in Terrace and get some momentum to push for the resources that people need so we can see more of them alive so they can recover.
And from Terrace, I'm Damian Smith.
An announcement was recently made by Canfor informing the public that they are going to be shutting down 2 more of their sawmills in the northern BC region. The sawmills in question this time are located in the communities of Fort St. John and Vanderhoof, and the reasons given by Canfor for the closures are numerous financial losses as well as the weak lumber markets. The shutdowns are set to affect about 500 of Canfor's employees and will also see about 670 million board feet of annual production capacity taken away from Canfor's productions in BC. But as a way to respond to their timber supply seeing a big-time reduction, the company is reportedly set to look at whether or not to use their other resources in order to help out other local forestry companies. The pair that is walking for awareness for children in ministry care have reached their initial goal of Prince George and are plowing on to Vancouver now. CFTK's Jaylee Matthews now with more of the details.
Kim and Jordan's marathon walk from Prince Rupert to Prince George has been completed, but they've decided that was only a leg in the journey. Despite pain, car troubles, and extreme weather conditions, Kim and Jordan Joseph arrived in Prince George as planned August 21st and have now made it all the way down to Quesnel. Kim and Jordan are walking for awareness around alleged gaps in care and unfair removal practices by the Ministry of Child and Family Development. Kim and Jordan's journey has gathered momentum along the way, with the pair being drummed, welcomed, and walked alongside in many of the communities they've passed. The Walking for Children in Care Facebook group has grown to over 1,500 members, and there is now a petition in their honor that can be signed on change.org. For CFTK-TV News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
As the BC election campaign ramps up with 6 weeks until voting, a big development just appeared in Ottawa, and there are questions about whether a federal election will happen earlier than planned. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh pulled his party out of a supply and confidence agreement, putting the Trudeau Liberals on shakier ground.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh brought an end to cozy photo ops with Justin Trudeau, announcing online he'd pulled the plug on the NDP agreement to support the Liberal government.
Today, I notified the Prime Minister that I've ripped up the supply and confidence agreement. Canadians are fighting a battle for the future of the middle class. Justin Trudeau has proven again and again he will always cave to corporate greed.
Campaigning on Vancouver Island, federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre challenged Singh to follow through and help topple the government.
After sellout Singh did this stunt today, he is going to have to vote on whether he keeps Justin Trudeau's costly government in power or whether he triggers a carbon tax election.
Trudeau responded from the other coast at a news conference in Newfoundland.
An election will come in the coming year, hopefully not till next fall, because in the meantime, we're going to deliver for Canadians.
Singh's move means the minority Liberal government could be defeated this fall on a confidence vote, triggering an election prior to the one scheduled for October 2025. Still doing poorly in the polls, the NDP may be in no rush for an early vote.
What it means is that the Liberals are back to being a regular minority government, and they have to proceed piecemeal, bill by bill by bill. And as long as they get the support of one of the opposition parties, they will survive to fight another day.
Asked whether he'd prefer an early federal election, Premier Eby pivoted to federal funding for BC.
My preference is for an Ottawa that supports British Columbians a hell of a lot better than they're doing right now. You know, I am wildly frustrated that we don't get access to the same programs that Quebec and Ontario get access to.
BC Green Party leader Sonia Furstenau noted voters here will have a lot on their minds if Poilievre gets his way.
To be able to keep track of all of the implications of two elections happening at the same time.
Parliament resumes in less than 2 weeks. Poilievre says he's going to push for that confidence vote as soon as possible.
Coming up next, a family finally got some answers regarding their daughter's suicide. Welcome back. One man has been killed in what appears to be a random, unprovoked attack in downtown Vancouver. The rampage began just moments before another man was stabbed with his hand being severed. The grisly scene unfolded in broad daylight by the Queen Elizabeth Theatre, and a warning, this story contains more graphic details.
Police say the horrific violence began just after 7:30 a.m. when a man was attacked near Holy Rosary Cathedral. Investigators could be seen examining the steps and the area around the front door of the church. Homicide investigators arrived at the Queen Elizabeth Theatre shortly after 9. That is where a second victim, killed just minutes after the first attack, lay deceased beneath a police tent. Police are speaking with a number of witnesses and gathering as much security and cell phone video as they can.
That will take a while to compile all of that, so we will obviously during the investigation develop a timeline and get witness statements and paint a picture of what happened.
A trail of blood drops led from the church around the corner and onto Homer Street, where a large pool of blood and bloody towels could be seen on the sidewalk. Police say the attacker used a knife on the first victim, who survived but had his entire hand severed in the attack. Police have not said how they believe the second man was killed or if a weapon was used.
I can't confirm what his fatal injuries were. That's part of the investigation, and our homicide detectives are still working on that.
As officers flooded the downtown core looking for the attacker, people reported a threatening man acting erratically at Habitat Island on the other side of Falls Creek.
Something seemed off, and my wife and I both kind of commented and said, man, let's just leave this guy alone. There's something up with him.
Police say that's where they located and arrested the 34-year-old suspect from White Rock. No charges have been laid yet, and that is why CTV News is blurring the man's face in this social media video.
I also want to commend the VPD for apprehending the perpetrator as quickly as they did. Their swift actions, make no mistake about it, prevented further harm from happening.
According to VPD, the suspect has a lengthy criminal history, including convictions for assault and assault causing bodily harm. He was on probation at the time of his arrest.
We have not yet confirmed whether there is a motive for today's attacks or what that motive is, and we are investigating the possibility that mental health was a contributing factor.
A grieving Surrey family is finally getting some answers months after losing their teenage daughter to suicide. As CTV's Isabella Zavarisi reports, the parents are hoping that their efforts will help ensure their daughter's death was not in vain.
It's taken months for the Donovan family to get answers as to what may have led to their teenage daughter Felicity dying by suicide in December.
It's been a long road. It's kind of impacted our grieving process as well.
The 16-year-old struggled with depression.
We know from Felicity's experience that she was forgotten in school when she had asked for that support.
That support included a Fraser Health program called START for Youth in Crisis. Felicity met with a counselor once a week, but 2 days before she died, her weekly appointment was cancelled because the counselor was sick.
Indigenous children dying at multiple times the rate of the general population.
Since her death, the family has spent 9 months trying to find out what went wrong. They've met with stakeholders and filed Freedom of Information requests, receiving inaccurate information.
I don't know how they made those mistakes, but I felt like it wasn't our daughter that they were talking about.
Fraser Health has since apologized and made corrections. When CTV News first reported on this story, we were told when a scheduled appointment was missed or canceled, someone would connect with the client and their family. A letter to the family shows this was never in the policy.
At times, it's felt like almost like we're being gaslit or something.
Again, we do want to learn from this. And we have connected with the family, and we have done our extensive review process.
As of August, Fraser Health says it's implemented a new protocol.
It feels really good to know that some changes have been made.
The Donovans say there's still more to do.
I wouldn't have it any other way because there's a lot of kids out there that need help.
I think that's what Felicity would have wanted. She's a very kind and caring person.
A young woman whose parents are continuing to carry her torch to prevent other families from enduring heartbreak. Isabella Zavarisi, CTV News, South Surrey.
Turning to tonight's weather, the North Coast will be home to periods of rain and a low at 14 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area should deal with a chance of showers at a low of 13 degrees. And the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District is expected to be partly cloudy, while their low sits at 3 degrees. On the North Coast, the upcoming week will see a lot of rain and clouds, as well as a high shifting from 15 to 14 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, their next week or so will consist of pretty much all clouds and rain too, while the high moves from 22 to 16 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the week for them will be made up of possibly a little sun at the start, but only rain and clouds after that, while the high bounces between 26 and 16 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is a special travel advisory, paving operations, utility work, construction work, crack sealing, fog patches, and the Usk Ferry is out of service due to the low river level. Highway 35 has fog patches too. Highway 37 has some maintenance and roadside brushing, and there is some construction work on the Nishka Highway. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come is an update on a recent ugly Stanley Park seawall incident. Welcome back. Israel's prime minister said his country's troops won't leave the border area between southern Gaza and Egypt until there's a guarantee that it can never be used as a lifeline for Hamas militants. His vow came as chilling new video was released by Israeli forces showing a tunnel where the bodies of 6 hostages were found. The entrance to that tunnel is a child's bedroom. ABC's Marcus Moore reports.
This is the Hamas tunnel shaft where the IDF says 6 hostages, including Israeli-American Hersh Goldberg, Poland, were executed just 48 to 72 hours before IDF forces recovered their bodies. ABC News could not independently verify the location, but the IDF claims access to the tunnel was hidden in what appears to have been a child's bedroom. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tonight standing firm, saying there will be no deal with Hamas to free the remaining hostages without Israeli control over the Philadelphia corridor along the border with Egypt.
I'm willing to make a deal. I made one already. But leaving Philadelphia does not advance the release of the hostages.
The White House today tight-lipped, but earlier this week pushing back, saying Netanyahu originally agreed to a deal in May that will remove troops along that corridor.
That's been on the table now for how many months? We still believe these gaps can be narrowed. We still believe it's an achievable outcome.
Right now, with hopes of a ceasefire out of reach, anger and protest grip Israel for a 4th straight day.
Now to an update on an ugly confrontation on the Stanley Park seawall between 2 groups of cyclists. A woman says that a man threatened her with a screwdriver and bit her. A man has recently come forward in order to tell his side of the story. CTV's St. John Alexander has the details.
So this is the first video I've received from other people.
A video that shows a nasty confrontation on Sunday at Second Beach in Stanley Park. It is short, and Alex Hillman admits it does not tell the full story. Even so, he vehemently denies allegations made against him.
I'm not swinging or attacking or punching him. I'm trying to defend myself.
The lady in the video is Carrie Shaw. On Monday, she told CTV News that while out for a bike ride with her husband and their 14-month-old daughter, she yelled at a man she thought was riding dangerously. She says things got violent when he yelled back and her husband defended her.
Right here is where he assaulted my husband, punched him in the head, broke his glasses, knocked his hat off his head.
She also says he bit her thumb and threatened the couple with a screwdriver.
I wasn't trying to hurt this guy. I was trying to stop the situation from going on.
Hillman says he was the one who was attacked.
So let's go through them. You know what she said because you saw the story yourself. So let's be clear here. Did you bite her
No, I
thumb?
did not. No, I did not.
Did you threaten them with a screwdriver?
I did not threaten them with a screwdriver at no point. I pick up the screwdriver. I immediately put it in my bike. I don't look back to her. I don't say a word to her. I bike away.
The video ends abruptly, so it does not show what happened next. Hillman was wearing a GoPro, but he says the batteries died before the incident. Meanwhile, Shaw and her husband say they stand 100% by their story and have witnesses to back it. And both parties say once more videos surface, they are confident all the details will be revealed. For now, the matter has been reported to police, and it will be up to them to determine what happened. St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
There's some welcome and expected news from the Bank of Canada as they cut key interest rates again by 0.25%. The decision could soon help the real estate market in Metro Vancouver rebound after a 10-year low in recent sales. CTV's Craig Krause has more.
We think a 3rd cut in interest rates is appropriate.
The Bank of Canada dropping its key interest rate to 4.25%, opening the door for more British Columbians to enter the housing market.
Every 0.25% on $100,000 borrowed equals about $15 in difference.
A number that might not spark a surge in demand.
We will definitely need to see a few more drops before we can start seeing demand pick up.
But there could be good news on the horizon. One expert says Metro Vancouver is seeing an increase in home inventory, and the overall prices are likely to stabilize.
It's going to keep prices from accelerating too quickly because
buyers have options. And that's a good thing for buyers. It's something we haven't seen in a number of years. Typically, inventory is incredibly tight in Vancouver.
Just last month, both Greater Vancouver and the Fraser Valley saw sales plummet double digits year over year as sellers wait for buyers to jump into the market.
We've seen a seasonally slow summer in the Fraser Valley. June, July, and August were all well below the seasonal averages for sales, by as much as almost by 30%.
And as for when home buyers here in the city can expect further drops, well, that depends on the next month. The Bank of Canada is scheduled to make another announcement in late October. Craig Crow, CTV News, Vancouver.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is up 6/100ths of a cent. The price of gold is up $17.10. Oil is the same as yesterday. Natural gas is up 10 cents. Aluminum is down $11. In Toronto, the TSX is down 52.48 points. The Venture Index is down 2.13. In New York, the Dow Jones is down 219.22, and Nasdaq is up 43.36. Still ahead, we look into a possible medical breakthrough to help people in comas. Welcome back. A groundbreaking new technique is being pioneered at an Ontario health facility. It promises to help detect consciousness in patients who are in a coma. CTV's Pauline Chan has the details.
This is what patients who were comatose due to a brain injury were asked to imagine: playing tennis. And for one patient, it lit up parts of the brain seen through functional near-infrared spectroscopy.
Entirely surprising. I mean, when you're in the ICU, many patients appear to be unresponsive.
The team at London Health Sciences first tested the device on healthy individuals to demonstrate that it worked. Then individuals who were in a coma due to brain injuries were tested.
It's almost like a swimming cap that is put on the patients. There are special, what we call optodes, and these are things that emit light, and those are placed at various positions on the cap. And those correspond with different positions around the brain as well.
Before the FNIRS device was used, there was no real way to tell which patients had what's called preserved consciousness.
So asking someone to imagine playing a game of tennis is a test for consciousness, because you have to be able to hear the instructions, you have to be able to understand the instructions, and then you have to be able to act on those instructions.
Karneg Kazazian says this procedure can help families and physicians determine the best course of action for patients, whether palliative care or more aggressive measures. And while a positive response to the test confirms preserved consciousness, the team says a lack of response doesn't necessarily mean a lack of consciousness.
It could be they could hear it, the instructions, but they just don't have that cognitive capacity, or they just don't have the energy to imagine playing tennis over and over. There could be medications that are influencing.
London Health Sciences is continuing further tests. As for the patient who demonstrated that he could imagine playing tennis, he did come out of his coma. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
That's all of our news for now. From everyone at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.